Hello, everyone. Steve Porter, First Town Council here. Welcome to this recap of the 10th of September 2024 Herndon Town Council meeting. Just as a reminder, this presentation is paid for and authorized by Stevan Porter for Town Council. The opinions expressed within this presentation are mine and mine alone, and they do not represent or seek to represent the Town of Herndon, the Herndon Town Council, the Herndon Board of Zoning Appeals, Oracle Corporation, or the Loudoun County Combined Fire and Rescue System. So now that we've got all that legal stuff out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the meeting that happened this Tuesday. It was a public hearing, so people were able to speak. It was very well attended. Basically full house in the main room. So always love to see people there, love to see people sharing, getting engaged. You know, that's really what town government should be about. It was a long meeting, roughly 3.5 hours. So I'll hit the high points. Fortunately, it really covered, the bulk of it really was about the Comstock agreement. So we'll get to that in a second. Let me go ahead and pull up the agenda here so that we can go over this a little bit. So it's a pretty straightforward meeting in some regards, start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And then a sizable part of the meeting was spent recognizing Bill Ashton for his 27 years of service to the town. Bill was the town manager. There was a reception for him before the meeting, and then a variety of proclamations from the Virginia Senate, the Virginia House of Delegates, the town council, others, thanking him for doing a really good job. He's been with the town for 27 years. He came here as our first director of information technology, then became the interim town manager before being selected to be the town manager. He's leaving us to take on the responsibility of a county administrator for Stafford County, Virginia. So it's a big move for him. I'm happy for him, and I truly wish him the best. And so a lot of the meeting, a lot of the comments was about that. Then there was a proclamation to recognize the National Hispanic American Heritage Month that officially starts on Sunday, the 15th, and runs for a month. The big thing there for everybody's awareness is that this Saturday, the 14th, we will have a Cape Hassa Herndon Festival from noon to 5, I believe, or noon to 6. Sorry, I don't remember the exact end time, but it starts at noon. There's going to be a variety of resource tables, you know, crafts, food, music. So it should be a really good time. Please come out and enjoy it. As was repeatedly pointed out by various people on this meeting, you know, Hispanic culture is not one culture. It expands across multiple countries, multiple dialects, you know, multiple types of food, multiple music. It truly is a wonderfully diverse, even within just the Hispanic framework, it is a wonderfully diverse and interesting cultures, not culture, cultures. And so come to Cape Hassa, learn more about some of them, and hope to see you there. I'll be there probably starting about 1. I'm doing some door knocking and stuff earlier in the day, but hope to see you there, and I think it'll be a great time. The town manager report and the council member comments, nothing really stands out with that. They did thank the police and our law enforcement and fire and rescue partners for some of the stuff that happened last week. If you didn't hear, there was a little bit of a issue with some chemicals found in a house over in the Fort Knightley neighborhood. So everyone did what they needed to do, protected the community. Turned out not to be a serious issue, but with that type of stuff, of course, being a paramedic, I'm always going to be on the side of better safe than sorry. So that was great. So comments from the audience. Most of the comments were actually about the Comstock stuff, so we'll get to that in a minute. There were comments about an issue with a fountain at one of the local HOAs that they're asking for some help from the town council with, as well as the thanking Bill for his service. All right, so moving down to public hearings, most of these items are really fast. I mean, this ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2025 adopted budget for the general fund and water and sewer fund basically was reclassification of some funds. We got a little bit more funding in through some of the police funding sources, so they needed to sort of allocate that. And on the water and sewer fund, the biggest thing was they needed to reclassify some professional services, which were currently listed as capital expenditures, but they really aren't. So they just had to be shifted to a different part of the budget. So, really nothing there. We'll get to this one. This is a big one. Then one of the town manager's responsibilities is to prepare an annual fiscal year report and present it to council and to the community every year. So Bill presented his FY 2024 annual report. It comes in two forms, both in Spanish and English. One is a nice little fold out thing with very high level stuff that will be mailed to every address in Herndon. And I do encourage people to take a look at it. And it also has a link to the full report. Now, the full report's only 15 pages. So it's not like some of the ones a decade ago that was like 30, 40, 50, 60 pages. That's a bit hard to digest. This 15-page report really has a lot of good information in it. So I would suggest people go ahead and take time to read it. Like, it's available on the town's website, the full report in both English and Spanish. And it covers a lot of the highlights of what the different divisions and things we're doing. All right, a couple things on the consent agenda. A resolution to express appreciation to Bill for his service. They appointed someone to the Historic District and Architectural Review Boards. They appointed a Virginia State Bar member, which is a requirement for those boards. They actually reappointed somebody to the Planning Commission, and then approved the minutes from the last work session, or sorry, from July 9th work session, and also basically set the calendar schedule for next year. It moved to the consent agenda because they didn't make any changes. So it's basically the same. Most months have two public hearings, 2 work sessions. A few months have 1 of each. But it's the same exact schedule we've had for the last 4, 5, 6 years. So nothing really there. So that brings us to the big topic. So the Comstock agreement. So public comments, there were a variety of public comments. As always, I encourage people to watch the recording and actually hear from the individuals who spoke. My comments were basically that I really was disappointed in the loss of the planned area for the Arts Center. And also that, I'm really hoping that before this goes for a truly final approval on the contract itself, that one, they put out something that's digestible for people like you and I about what the consequences of the different paths were or are. Development and construction legalese is its own world. A lot of people don't understand it. You add public public partnerships into the mix, and it becomes a really strange animal that a lot of even my friends who do construction and development type law were like, yeah, this is sort of hard to follow. So one of my asks was put out something that's easily digestible by the community that clearly explains what's happening, right? What is going to be the problems, cost, whatever, in something that's digestible. The second ask was to whatever this truly final proposal is going to be, get it out in front of the public in time that we have a chance to really look at it and offer our informed thoughts. And finally, along that same line, have a public hearing. Don't do this as a general item or a consent item. This is important enough that it should be a public hearing before, the final agreement is made. So those were my points. A number of people spoke about particularly the arts, including a lot of young people and members of the LGBTQ plus community, where art space has become really a shelter and a place that they can thrive at. And their concerns that by not, having a significant space, it may make it hard for art space to continue to do programs and things, because although the space being proposed is roughly equivalent to the space in the sort of a front of the current art space, we lose the lawn, which has become an important part of art space's programming. We lose all the storage in the back. I believe we lose some classroom space, some office space. So even though it sort of looks like it's somewhat similar in size to what's the used space right now in the current art space building, that really doesn't take into account everything. So it really will, I think, hurt. That being said, the thing tonight was whether to extend the outside date of satisfaction to December 10th. That is basically to allow all the details on the actual contract to be put into place. Key things that they pointed out about the contract is, unlike the current agreements, it would have milestone-based targets for dates, not big general dates, but literally, when X happens, that triggers something that needs to happen within a certain amount of time. Again, most of this stuff is still very much under the closed meeting stuff, so they couldn't share a lot about it because of the ongoing legal negotiations. So we're all still pretty in the dark about a lot of it. People ask, so what would have been the results if we didn't extend it? The deal would have died. It would have died at 12 o'clock, probably a little before 12 o'clock. Comstock was most likely literally watching it and had their lawyer queued up to pull the plug if the extension wasn't granted, because no one wants a contract or agreement that's in some sort of weird limbo land. The town doesn't want that either, and frankly, it's not good. It's just not. It's not a good practice. So they did ultimately decide to extend until the 10th to allow the final legalese to come into place. That was a 5-1 vote, with Councilwoman Scherf voting no and Mayor Olam being absent from a meeting. Now, people ask a lot. They were dancing a lot because there's still legal discussions going on. So there's stuff that they can't openly discuss. So they were trying to give as much information as they could and explain some things. But I think some key things to realize is that, as Bill said, there just is no financial model that works for funding based on the current economic realities and what the lenders are going to require to provide financing. Comstock is putting up roughly 50% of a required equity up front. So Comstock is prepared to put a lot of money into this, but they still need substantial financing for the project. And in order to get that project, there are spreadsheets upon spreadsheets way over my head, but basically there's certain sets of numbers that have to come in at certain points in order to make it financially feasible for lenders to lend and for a project to continue. And the town has worked and tried to figure out ways to make those numbers play out so that a larger art space was still possible, and they just couldn't find it. There just wasn't a way. So that leaves us with, some mutually bad, in my opinion, options. So it's sort of what's the least bad. Option one is you allow the contract to die. If that happens, there's a whole bunch of contractual requirements on how to unwind the agreement. Those processes would easily take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years just for those contractual promises or contractual agreements. Then there's the issue of actually getting the land back. The town is pretty confident that ultimately we would be successful in pulling the titles to the land back to the town. But Comstock has sunk a lot of money into this already. And so it wouldn't be without litigation and payments. And we're talking millions and millions of dollars worth of both, right? So, that is sort of what would happen if it had failed. And we still wouldn't get our nice 18,000 square foot new art facility. It would fail. And we're probably looking to actually do anything with the project, probably looking for at least a decade out. So honestly, there really, in my opinion, aren't a lot of good options here. So it does look like ultimately the town council, and will be this town council, not the next town council, will make a decision to go ahead and move forward with a modified Comstock contract. And that though is still dependent on several factors. All of this is dependent on interest rates doing what many people, not just Comstock and the town, but the trades, the industry experts, financial experts believe is going to happen in the next couple months with interest rates, as well as sort of what they think is going to happen in the early part of next year. If any of that shouldn't happen correctly, this whole thing could still fall apart. So yeah, I think we as a town probably have learned a lot of lessons about this type of trying to do something under this particular framework and things like that. So hopefully if we ever have an opportunity to do some sort of project like this again, the lessons will be learned. But that ultimately is sort of how the meeting turned out. The 18,000 square foot art space is dead, and it doesn't really matter how you slice it, whether the project fails and no new art center gets built, or the Comstock project gets built with roughly a 4,000 square foot art center. Yeah, very disappointed, very disappointing, but that's sort of how the numbers ended up. And, had we been able to act back in 2017, we would have been able to act under the economic conditions that existed at that time where this model was feasible. Lots of things have changed in the last 7 years, unfortunately. So now that being said, I do think that there are opportunities independent of that sums up the meeting. Basically, there is no closed session. Like I said, it was about 3.5 hours, lots of conversation and stuff. It's worth spending some time reviewing the smarter people that actually was presenting the information to get some of the details. First, what do we do about the arts and things moving forward? I think we will look for opportunities to see what we can do with our corporate partners, with our residential partners, with our our nonprofits. Are there ways that we can leverage other spaces, whether that's the town green or the town square, whether that's potentially finding people who are willing to help finance leasing space, because the block that has the Arts Herndon in it, that block also has additional leased commercial space. So maybe there's a way to find a way to finance us leasing some space. The Arts Center is basically a in perpetuity type of thing that's given to the town. There's still other space available in the building, so maybe that's an option. Can the town provide some low cost or free options for office space and or storage space? Because that's both going to be a consideration. So, certainly not giving up on the arts in Herndon. Um, and like I said, I'm disappointed. I really wanted to see this turn out differently, but it just there really is no path forward for it currently. So, and realistically, probably won't be one for a long time, if ever. Um, the project itself is a weird size, which is problematic. One thing Bill pointed out was that typically for these type of mixed use type projects, developers are looking for roughly 400 apartments. That's sort of a sweet spot for financing and for, return on investment and stuff to come out. Well, this is about 270. And despite some of what you may have heard, that actually hasn't changed significantly from the original agreement to the modified agreement to this. It, I, I think it's set 272 right now. So originally I think it was 270, then it dropped down to 260 something. I think it's at 272 or something like that. It wasn't so much Comstock looking for more apartments. It was looking for differences in where to put the apartments in the three buildings. And so there's a little bit of shift there, but it's not a massive change. Um, so, so yeah, that's sort of how the meeting came out. I do hope people will continue to share your thoughts and concerns and things about it. Hopefully, there won't be any more changes, that, we can actually sort of move forward with this. And other than that, I hope I see people at K-Pasa on Saturday. And as always, if you have comments, suggestions, concerns, want to know more about my campaign, please reach out to me. I've got plenty of yard signs, so if people would like some yard signs, let me know. Also, some good opportunities to help volunteer, both for me and for the Herndon candidates, Kevin LeBlanc, Clark, Hedrick, Alex Reyes, myself, as far as doing things like lit drops or helping out with the polls or things. So if any of that type of stuff interests you, please reach out to me or one of the other campaigns, and we'd love to have you. So again, my name is Stevan Porter for Town Council, and this presentation was paid for and authorized by Stevan Porter for Herndon Council. Hope everyone has a great week. Take care.